Oh my goodness, we were left with a huge cliffhanger. There was no rose ceremony on The Bachelorette week 2. Now we're at the beginning of week number 3, and let's see what's happening. Stay tuned. Okay, so we're on The Bachelorette season 17 with Katie Thurston, and we're on episode number 3. It starts off at the rose ceremony that did not happen, and the guys are still discussing Carl and the whole drama of last week. Last week, Carl made this false claim that there were so many guys here for the wrong reasons. He wouldn't give Katie examples, names, anything to look out for. She's like going over this in her head. She's getting doubt. And the guys are basically calling Carl out on his BS. Like, sir, you just threw us all under the bus because if you don't say anybody, now she's starting to think that none of us are, or she's questioning each and every one of us. Okay, so in comes Katie. She says that she doesn't have the right mind to, have any more one-on-one conversations with anyone else. She's going straight to the rose ceremony. So they don't finish cocktail hour. Not very many people have talked to her. And Carl kind of ruined it for everyone. So guys, of course, are getting nervous and a little bit upset about not getting time with her this week. They haven't talked to her. They haven't gotten a chance to not sway her, but to get to know her a little bit better and for her to get to know them a little bit better so she can determine and make a good decision on whether or not she'll keep them around. Okay, so Katie goes off and, the guys are still kind of discussing, but Greg, who was her first impression rose and her first one-on-one date, he also has a rose from his first one-on-one date last week. And he comes in, basically to check on her. Like, hey, I just want to know how you're doing and see if you're okay, which I thought was very genuine and very nice because basically she had said, I'm not talking to anybody else, but I do think she appreciated it. He found her kind of crying. And so he was able to kind of, make her feel a little bit better. The guys are furious with Carl, and they are very, very much so disappointed. So now I don't know how this all plays out, but all the guys are sitting there talking about Carl, but Carl's nowhere to be found. The camera goes to him, and he's in this room alone, fighting the air, like a boxing and saying, I'm ready for whatever comes my way and all this foolishness. Okay, so now they're at the rose ceremony and Katie is in her confessional saying that, she just really doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know who to trust. She kind of wants the guys to be her eyes and ears in the house. And I'm giving Katie the side eye like, girl, why? First of all, who cares what's going on in the house as long as they're treating you right, they're not disrespecting one another and fighting and stuff like that. I just feel like all the drama I wouldn't want to be a part of if I was a part of The Bachelorette. And I don't want tattletales like telling me what's going on. Now, y'all can handle like men and leave me out of it unless it's something that needs my attention. Other than that, just keep it moving. But now she's like, she doesn't really know who she can trust. But she does want to follow her heart. Some of the people that were safe were David, Hunter, Connor C, and then Mike P. Now, Mike P, if you guys remember from last week, he was the virgin who got the group date rose on the sex positive date, which was so ironic. However, he gets his rose, he accepts it, and then he decides to make a statement for the house. So we've been discussing it, and as a house, we collectively think that you should not trust anything Carl says, basically. Like, that's the gist of it. I don't have his word for word what he said. Basically, he was like, we voted and we want him out. So in that moment, Katie kind of is overwhelmed, is what I'm going to say she felt. And so she leaves out and she goes to talk to Tayshia and Caitlin. Because here's the thing, she decided that she was probably going to keep Carl. But now that the guys have voted and the guys have decided that Carl has to go, now she's confused once again. And so basically she's telling this all to Caitlin and Tayshia. And Tayshia's basically like, well, ultimately it's your decision. Do what your heart says. And I'm thinking like, oh, these men think they gotta vote. Okay, I see where y'all going with this. So Katie comes back out and she saves Michael, Connor B, Courtney with the Q, Trey, Justin, Andrew M, Christian, Josh, Brendan, James, and then the last and final rose, of course, it looks like it's between Aaron, who is the guy from last week who told her that Cody was not there for the right reasons from San Diego, and she ended up sending Cody home. And Aaron did not go home that night, so he's up. And then the next person, of course, is Carl. Now, everybody's hating Carl. We don't know what she's going to do, but she does say in her confessional that she had planned originally to keep Carl. So she ends up picking Aaron. So Aaron gets to stick around. He lives to see another day. And honey, Carl is gone. He's not the only one eliminated, but he is definitely one of the guys eliminated. And it was a mess, because in my mind, I'm thinking like, well, Katie, who are you really going to send home over Carl? Because I kind of want to know. And I'm sure the guys want to know too. Like, was I on a chopping block? Was I going home? Because now you didn't keep me around. Now I think it would be so funny if one of the guys she had plans to get rid of this week makes it to the end and she's like, ooh, glad I didn't do that. But yeah, so it's so ironic. Of course, Tayshia comes out and Caitlin. Tayshia says this is, she said this is the final rose. That was it. Could you guys please say your goodbyes? So the other guy eliminated, saying goodbyes, hugging the guys. When I say Carl is standing there looking crazy, none of the men acknowledge him. None of them hug him. He's like standing there in the middle of the floor. He turns around. It's so dramatic, guys. Like, so dramatic. He turns around. He's looking at Katie. And then he turns and exits. He doesn't say bye to Katie. He doesn't say bye to any of the guys. But now, mind you, when he was in that room fighting and boxing, so they're going to have to get military in here to get me up out of here because I'm not going home. He was so confident he was staying, which he was right at first, because he was, until Mike P came out and said, listen, we didn't vote it as a house, and you can't trust Carl. We don't believe anything he's saying, and he's a liar, basically. So Carl is gone. The other person who ended up leaving was John. He did give Katie a hug. That was the rose ceremony. Hey guys, so it's the next day and there are all these small conversations going on. You have some guys in the hot tub. There are a few guys in the hot tub. They're discussing, oh my God, this was a crazy rose ceremony. Guess what happened last night? Katie's probably questioning all of us. And then there's a date card that comes up. So the first date card is a group date. And on the card, there is Aaron. There is Courtney with a Q. There's James, Connor B, David, Justin, I believe Thomas, Hunter, and Brendan. And the date card says, love is about honesty and I need 100%. ... So all the guys was like, wait, there's no love, Katie? I don't know, one of the guys asked that. And they're like, wait, let me read the card. I was like, it says ... honey. Every other card she signs with love, Katie. She is in a mood, apparently, from the rose ceremony last night. And the guys are feeling it. And they all feel some kind of way that she didn't say love, Katie. But basically, love is all about honesty. And she needs 100%. So that is the date card. Connor B. Now, Connor B is actually the catsuit guy from night number 1, who is the teacher. And he was like, oh man, that was brutal. Like, the fact that she didn't sign this love Katie, I feel like he took it more to heart than anybody else. Katie is on the date and she says, you know what? Last night was basically tough and it was very intense. But it's about... this date here is about past relationships. She says, I have a friend who is going to help me get to the bottom of some things, so come follow me. So they walk into this building or this room setup situation, and there's like this circle of chairs. So this like circle of trust. And Nick Viall is there. So Nick Viall, for those of you who do not know, who's like not really a part of Bachelor Nation, and you guys are just starting out, he was a former contestant on Andy Dorfman's season of The Bachelorette. He was in her final 2. He did not get picked. She broke his heart. There was a controversy with him. And then he came back onto Caitlyn. Caitlyn is one of the hosts with Tayshia this season on The Bachelorette. And he was one of those, hey, I really liked you and I want to throw my hat in the ring. So he came back on her season. He was really close, if not her top 2. He was at least top 3. And she did not end up picking him either. And finally, no, Nick even went on Bachelor in Paradise. I forgot about that. Bachelor in Paradise. He did not make a love connection there. And finally, he was able to become The Bachelor. So he did get him a season of The Bachelor as the lead star. And so he's on here. He's like, listen, guys, I've been where you are. I've been where she is. And we're just going to get to the bottom of some things. I'm going to ask you some questions. Share what you want to share. You know, be honest. I've been heartbroken before, and, you know, I fell in love with someone on this show. That did not work out. And yeah, he said, so tell us what you want to tell us, whether you've ghosted somebody, whether you've led somebody on. You know, basically just let us know what's going on. So when I say that this is an awkward date, to say the least, because I'm like, most time when people get date cards, I think they finna go have some fun. Now, you want us to come out here and spill all the tea. You want us to come out here and, like, just basically bear it all in front of all these other men. You a stranger, and the girl we like. But listen, Katie's like, I'm sick and tired of y'all just being out here for the wrong reasons. Let's hear it. Let's hear what you got to say so I can make an informed decision, which I appreciate, because a lot of times men leave out things and the women don't have a full picture when they're making their decisions. So Katie wants that. First up is Hunter. He basically says that, you know, his feelings for her are developing already, and he goes into his truth. So he says that he met someone, you know, he thought this was the person for him. They got married. They had their first child together. And then by the time they had their second child together, he wasn't even in the same place he was before with this woman or with his wife. And he just really wants to focus on work. And he claimed that he was doing it, you know, for the kids and for his family. And he wasn't realizing that all of this added intention, added focus on work was actually making him lose the thing that he was working so hard for, which was his family. And so he was very disappointed. You know, he had a failed marriage. And it's not just the wife who was affected, who he hurt, but also his children. And so he is divorced, and he was, you know, crying and super emotional. And I could tell that Katie appreciated it. But I was like, oh, okay, so there's more than just the one dad, because we do know about the dad, Michael A, I believe, who is a dad. He's a single father. But there is another dad who is Hunter. So I was like, okay, cool. That's something he shared. It was very personal. He was the first one to go. So I guess this led the path, the floodgates, let everybody know, hey, you can be as honest and open as you want to be. He shared something super personal before Katie, Nick Viall, and all of you guys. So that was cool. Next up was Aaron. So Aaron talked about how his dad had a stroke, and then he met this young lady who also had something really traumatic going on in her life as well. They were going through something together. And so they needed each other. And over time, he said it became more of a obligation to be together, because they were together and they were with each other through something difficult and traumatic. And basically, they just kind of grew apart. And he wasn't being the man that he wanted to be in that relationship. So that was something he shared with Katie. Next up was David. So now I don't really recall David talking a lot or really seeing much of David But in this one, he basically says he had a decision to make, love or his career, and he decided to move on with his life into his career. So he always kind of thought, like, did I make the wrong choice? Did I miss something that, I should have focused more on? Next up was Courtney with the Q. I don't know why I keep saying that, but Courtney with the Q. And he basically said, he's made mistakes. He's broken people's trust. He realized how important trust is from those experiences. And I feel like this, guys, I don't know if you guys have ever been on what do I want to call it? If you guys have ever been on an interview and they ask you, like, what is either your best quality or what is a quality that you need to work on or something about yourself that you need to work on. So it's like you want to say what it is, but you don't want to make it sound bad. So you sometimes reverse it and be like, well, I'm very, very organized and I'm my own worst critic. And so sometimes, I just stay on a task until it's done. And that, instead of saying, just trying to make it sound good or whatever. But these guys aren't really doing that. They are literally just trying to let Katie know what's going on. So Katie's talking to the confessional now, and she's saying, you know what, listening to these guys, I can see that they're growing from whatever it is. Basically, she kind of gave them that caveat in the beginning, like, I'm not going to hold this against you. We've all made mistakes in the past, you, me included. And what she's taking from this, which I appreciate, instead of looking at them sideways or crazy, is like, you know what, they've grown from this because how they express it is like, I learned that trust is so important by breaking someone's trust before or, doing all these other things. Next up is Thomas. Now, you guys remember Thomas. He's the super tall guy. I always call him super tall. He's the guy that, like, when they have a group day, she runs up to him, wraps her legs around him, he picks her up. They just have this really good vibe, this really good chemistry. And so he says, now, basically, I can't say that when I first signed up for this show and when I first came on here that I had the purest of intentions. Like, basically, I didn't think it could help me build my platform. I didn't know you. I really didn't come here for you. And so, that's a red flag. Now, if you guys watched Hannah Brown's season, the guy she ultimately picked, Jed, said the same thing. And he was walking around the house playing his dang guitar the whole time. He was a musician. And we knew he was not on there for Hannah B. He was on there for himself. So basically, Thomas is voicing the same opinion. Jed did say that to Hannah before, too. She, said, I understand. And she picked him anyway. And he had a whole girlfriend, I believe, still in Nashville. Anyway, so this is what Thomas says. So he's like, the worst case, I'll give it a shot. It could always be great for my platform. He's like, I'm just being honest. I'm giving you the truth. The best thing is that now his feelings for her are really real. Anyway, so now he's like, my feelings for you, Katie, are so real. And I'm so glad I came here. And that wasn't why I came here, but now I'm here for you. And so he's just like, the crazy part is, I don't know if this is a nervous mechanism or a nervous reaction, but he's like cheesing, smiling the whole time. The other guys are crying, looking somber, melancholy. He is just like, and I was here for the wrong reasons and my platform, but I'm here for you now. And that's so exciting, whatever we can be. And he goes into like, I'm an open book and whatever red flags you can think of, I'll tell you. Like, yeah, I've let people on. Yeah, I've done, like, smiling the entire time. Like, just super crazy, like. So, yeah. So, Aaron is thinking, and he's talking to the confessional, like, it's something off about this guy. Like, He's like, he just glosses over all the, like, red flags and just keeps smiling and just, reeling her back in. It's not even a hard conversation for him. So Aaron was like, it sounds more like a sales pitch. Like Thomas is selling Katie on why he's here. And it just doesn't seem very genuine. So Aaron is picking up on this. And I mean, it was a lot of like, I'll tell you anything. Yeah, I've ghosted women. I've, used women. I've done this. But I love you and I'm here for you. Even though I'm not here for the right reasons initially. I am now, Katie. I am now. So it was like, it's a little kind of cringy. Then there's Connor B. So Connor B's cat guy. And he says this is really going to be very, very hard. And he's, very emotional even before he gets started. And basically he says in this, he wasn't the good guy. This is what he's saying in his confessional. So it's kind of hard to tell Katie what it is. So basically he says he was in a relationship. And he was in grad school. He was working his PhD. He hated it. He was not happy. So he started playing, because, he played the banjo in his little introduction video. And then for one of his talents or something, he sang her a song with his guitar. So he's also a musician on the side. So he said he became a musician at this bar, and he would play there, and he'd get free drinks. And so he just started drinking, and all of a sudden it got to be a little bit too much. He one day had, I guess, an argument with his girlfriend at the time, and it got really heated. He left, he went to a party, and he cheated on her. He had sex with someone else, and he hurt her so bad he messed up his whole life in that instance. He had dropped out of grad school, had this fight he just wasn't in a good place, and it just blew up his whole life, basically. And so he was like, he really, really learned from it. He used it to become a better man. He really hates that he hurt her because she was so undeserving of it. And, Katie is happy and appreciative of their vulnerability. The date, I guess we can call it going well. However, it's a super awkward date. It's not like date worthy. It's like nothing you write home about. But so Katie basically says, because you guys have been so vulnerable with me, I'm going to be vulnerable right back with you. And, it's something that I haven't shared with many people. Many people don't know. Even my mom doesn't know this. And she goes into a story about, 10 years ago, she was at a party, or I don't know, did she say New Year's Eve? I can't remember, but she was somewhere, and there was an incident, she says, where consent was not given. And so basically it sounds that she was either sexually assaulted or raped. And I'm assuming it's by someone she knew, because she did say after that she said she had been drinking a lot, and she didn't give consent, and something did happen. And she said, she did say, she did say that she even was trying to kind of change the scenario in her head, and she ended up dating this guy, whoever she was involved with, who, definitely took advantage of her, and she was trying to, reconcile it, and she ended up dating him, blaming herself, I was too drunk, or, all this stuff, and it's taken her years to, deal with that. She said she had a horrible relationship with sex for a long time. She wasn't this sex-positive Katie that she is now. There were times when she was in relationships and she didn't even want to have sex. She just had a bad taste in her mouth when it came to it. And so what she wants them to all get out of this is to basically don't judge people, don't, treat them bad, don't pressure them and stuff like that when it comes to sex. So she said she was basically giving herself a guilt trip, and she just wanted everyone to know how important consent is, communication is, and not guilt tripping someone for not wanting to have sex or not being able to, because you don't know everyone's story. She said she did not plan on sharing that, but, because they were so open and honest with her, she really wanted to share that. So I do feel that although this was a super awkward date, I feel like they all who were apart are closer because of it. She knows them a little bit more, and they know a little bit more about her. So overall, I think it was a pretty good day. So they flash back to the guys that are at the resort. There are some in the gym. Michael, who is a single dad, remember, he didn't get a date at all last week. And he's basically saying that, this is a journey for him. His journey has been difficult, and he hasn't really shared it with Katie. He does take this moment, though, to share with the other guys. And basically his story is back 16 years ago, he was at college on campus. He saw this lady named Laura, this girl named Laura. And he was like, oh my God, that's going to be my wife. This is going to be the love of my life. It was love at first sight. Something Similar to that, they got married back in 2012, and shortly after they had their first child. And like 7 months or so after that child was born, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. I believe it was breast cancer, definitely cancer. And he said they tried so hard, they worked so hard, they were trying everything, experimental treatments, all of this stuff. And she ended up passing away 2 years ago in 2019. And, Katie does not know that. So she knows he's a single dad, but he is the only parent his child has. And that's a whole different situation or scenario for her to deal with, because he did have a love of his life at one point. He is open to, now focusing on him. His son does deserve to have, a mother figure and all that stuff. And so it's really heavy, and he's looking for the perfect time to tell her, but he is looking forward to sparks flying with Katie. She's toasting. She's like, okay, let's just toast to a good night. And then the first guy she's talking with is actually Justin. So he's basically checking in, letting her know that this is a safe space, that he's really here for the right reasons, and he loves learning more and more about her. They go ahead and they do kiss. They're taking like Polaroids together. It is super cute. I think she really does like Justin, sorry. You guys remember Justin? He was the painter, and he has another day job. I can't remember what it was, but he painted her the roses in the heart. Next up is Connor B. He says, thanks for sharing. So this is not the second group date. It's the second half of the first group date. So Connor B is like, thanks for sharing. She felt relief and growth in hearing what he said. They kiss, and she thinks that he's a really good catch. She tells him that. Next up is Thomas. So remember, Thomas is the guy who was just like glossing over all of his faults and what he did wrong, and was smiling through his whole confessional while all the other guys were crying and somber and sad. And Aaron kind of was like, looking at you sideways. So anyway, she asked him about, his list of red flags that you said you would share, that you said you were open a book to. And so it's so crazy, because he's just like, well, what do you want to know? She's like, well, I don't know what to ask you, but you say you have them, so let me know. Like, I don't know what it is that I should be asking. So he gives her this soliloquy, and she's like, I feel like you're not answering the question, like you're avoiding the question. He really can't get into him or whatever. Anyway, that conversation is over. And so he comes back out, and he's like, at the confessional, like, I wish that date did not go well. That one-on-one time did not go well. I wish I was more prepared for the questions she was asking. She asked a lot of probing questions. So it's like he felt put on the spot, and he wished he was more prepared, because that's what he does. He prepares. That's what it was, a sales pitch, like Aaron said before. So the guys are kind of talking amongst themselves, and they're basically talking about Thomas here. They're all kind of saying, I kind of noticed the same thing, that he didn't really share much. He talks over, he kind of just is always on or something like that. I don't think he's right here for the right reasons. So basically everybody's kind of on to this line of thinking with Thomas is concerned. So Thomas says, well, it might cause a little turmoil, but I just really need to go fix things with Katie. So this is where it gets interesting this week, guys. So basically, Aaron is in there talking to Katie. Aaron is talking to him about his dad's stroke, because remember, that's what he shared. So of course, Katie is using these moments to talk to the guys about what it is they shared. Aaron's talking about his dad. She's like, continue. Now Thomas is back here pacing in the background. Thomas, what are you doing, sir? You already talked to her today. And Aaron is talking to her and about something serious and super important. Because Katie's dad has passed away. Aaron was talking about his dad having a stroke. I don't know if he died or not, but either way, it's an important topic. She's like, continue. He's like, I'm getting distracted. And she's like, yeah, me too. And so he really loses his train of thought. He can't finish it. So Thomas just finally comes up and says, can I talk to her about something really quickly? And Aaron is like, what the heck is going on? Like, sir, you've already talked to her. And they're both looking like, this is awkward, Katie and Aaron. Now, this again is what that always annoys me about the leads, is they always let whoever interrupts them come, instead of saying, give me 5 minutes and, you know, I'll come get you, or, you know, I'll talk to you next. She goes and gives Aaron a hug. He's like, is this really happening? Like, okay. Thomas comes in, holds her hands, and just says, you know, I'm just super excited to see you again. It's all of this stuff, like fear and love is almost in the same place. And she's like, you know, you're really, really passionate, and I like that about you. I appreciate it. They kiss, right? So he's all excited. Next up, we're back at the resort, and the guys get the second date card. So the second date card comes, and Andreas is basically talking to the confessional, like, basically, like, I miss Katie. I didn't get a chance to talk to her last night because of, you know, that rose ceremony and Carl and all of that drama. So then Michael A., who is a single father, he gets the one-on-one date, and it says, love is an adventure, love our heart, Katie. So I guess the heart's back, the love is back. She ready for it. So this is the one-on-one date, and he's so excited because, you know, he's the single dad who did not get that one-on-one time with her. He didn't get any time with her, not even a group date last week. And also he wants to share, you know, his story about him being a widower and all of that stuff. Okay, so Thomas is back in the fold with all the guys. And you know, when Aaron came out, he definitely let it be known that Thomas interrupted him. So all the guys are like, wait, what? Who does that? Like, he has no respect for us. Which I don't understand why they always say that. But I do think that if you've talked to somebody in this scenario, in this dating situation, don't keep going back and forth because you know other people need time or whatever. But on the other side of that coin, I mean, if you like somebody, you like them and you want to be with them all the time, you want to hang out with them, so you do that. But those are always the villains. So Carl is gone now. He was the villain. Now Thomas looks like he's the villain. So, basically, he was like, I had something super important to tell her, and so that's what I did. And they're looking like, okay, so basically Thomas is talking to the guys like, well, I had something really important to tell her. Aaron was like, so did I. He's like, no, this is basically more important than what you had to tell her. Like, I wanted to tell her that I was falling in love with her. So I'm like racking my brain like, Thomas, that's not what you said. That's not what you said. So all the guys are looking shocked, first of all, because we are on the third week, beginning of the third week. And he like, I just want her to learn I'm like falling in love with her. Not to mention, 2 hours before, you sitting here talking about I didn't even come here for love at all. Like, I came here for my platform. So everybody's like, this just seems kind of suspicious. Like, I don't know whether you in love with her or not, but... And he was like, no, I didn't say I was in love with her. Because they was just like, basically like BS. That's BS. He's like, no, I didn't say I was in love with her. So he backpedaled it. He's like, I just told her that love and fear have to exist together. Which, I don't even recall him really saying it like that. When he was talking to her, he didn't give her any inclination that he was in love with her. Just that he liked, enjoyed spending time with her. She said he was passionate. But he did not say he loved her and all that stuff. So then he lied again. So they're like, okay, what is going on? So basically they're like, I feel like you telling her you love her, he's playing with, that's when he changed his story. It's playing with her emotions. Like, because we all know you don't love her. There is the date rose. So, of course, Katie always mentions at least 3 guys and, you know, who impressed her on the day. So she talks about Connor B and how he had courage to open up about him cheating or being unfaithful and what he's learned from it. She thanked him for that. She thanked David and also Hunter for his honesty and told them all that, it means a lot to them. But ultimately, Connor B, cat guy, gets the date rose. And so he's super excited. Thomas is sitting over there looking kind of crazy because he thought he didn't seal the deal and he was going to get the rose. And basically, Aaron was just glad Thomas didn't get the rose. The guys are really not feeling Thomas at all. And Connor B says basically Thomas is playing with her emotions. And now he's backpedaling like I didn't tell her I love her. And then he did tell her I love her because now Katie's gone. She gave the rose. And they're all having this conversation still. And he's talking about this like fear and love. And it has to coexist. And so he's like backpedaling with the guys. Okay, guys, let's get to a real date because that one was a really, really awkward first date for that group of guys. But now we're on the one-on-one date. And so it is with Michael A., who is the single father. And Katie is like driving up in this dune buggy, honey. She flips that thing over. She's off-roading and just wilding out. I don't know. That ain't my cup of tea, but people like to do that. I don't like reckless driving. I don't think there's anything fun about it. Anyway, she flips it over. They have to come and rush to her, come get her. I'm like, Lord, this is a lie. I'm like, Michael's standing there waiting on her to come. I'm like, she might not make it. She might be in the hospital or something. But she eventually makes it to him in the dune buggy. They get in. They're off-roading. They're having a good time. And they stop and overlook like wherever they are. It ain't no mountain. But anyway, they overlooking something like having a picnic or whatever. They're talking. And he's like, I had the utmost confidence in you where you were driving that dune buggy. And she was like, well, if I'm gonna be honest with you, I flipped that thing over. I broke the window, the mirrors, all this stuff. He like, wow, what? He was like, I wasn't nervous or anything. So basically, Katie picked this date because she said he's a single dad, and he's like, he calls himself the dad of the house. He's the older one of the older guys. He's 36, and so she just wanted him to like let loose and have fun, and that's basically why she picked him and this date for him. And so I thought that was funny because I'm like, I wouldn't have kept driving. But she said they were practicing earlier, and that's when she flipped it over. And yeah, I wouldn't have kept driving, but she kept driving the entire time they were driving. So they talk about his son, how he would like for this to end in an engagement, but he does understand that if he's a little bit scary and nervous, that if he gets super attached to her, basically it does not work out or she doesn't pick him, how he'll take that. He asks her for a kiss. They make out, against the dune buggy and everything. So they're having a good time. Okay, guys, so we're at the second half of the one-on-one date with Michael A. and Katie. And so, it's always a dinner. So they're at dinner, and he goes ahead and he opens up about his story with his wife, and he tells her all the things that he told the young men earlier about, meeting her at college, them having a baby after getting married, her being diagnosed with cancer, them trying everything, and then her ultimately passing away. And so they have this really good conversation because he basically ends it by saying that his job would be to show her that their relationship is unique, because she's saying also in her confessional that or not even her confession, I believe she said this to him about, it could be kind of hard to compete with the forever love that he had with his wife, Laura. And he's saying that my job would be to help you to see that our relationship is unique. And I thought that was super cute. They both felt the same way. They were both crying. They were both in tears. And she's excited about what this can be. He's excited about what it can be. And Katie basically says, like, she feels herself kind of, maybe beginning to fall in love or fall for Michael A. And so I think that's really cool. She does decide to give him a rose, and basically she said that any rose she gives him is super important because it's not just for him but also his son James as well, which was such a cute gesture. And so then there's this pallet with blankets and pillows, and they're like kissing and making out, and you can tell that they really do like each other. And she says that, she's kind of fallen for him, and it was kind of unexpected. She didn't really see this coming. And so I'm excited for her. It gives her more hope for the journey because, guys, Katie has been having a time, honey, with wondering if these people are here for the right reasons or not. So she's feeling so much more hope for love, and she's excited about what's coming next, which is her group date. So then next up, they pan to Aaron. He's talking to another guy about Thomas and, his thoughts on how he doesn't think Thomas is here for the right reasons and all this other stuff. Then they go on to three other guys. So they're in these little pockets. And there's David, there's Connor B, and there's one other person. I can't remember who it is. But again, they're talking about how, Thomas has to go. Thomas is not there for the right reasons. He's playing with her heart, all this good stuff. And then Hunter and Justin, they are together, and they're discussing the same thing, discussing Thomas all over again. So prior to the group date, Hunter does call Thomas out in front of the large group. Now, remember, Thomas and Hunter had a conversation early on, and he was all like, oh, I'm in love. And Hunter was like, you being in love with her has nothing to do with me. That's none of my business. All we worried about is protecting her heart. And if that's not what you're here for, then, basically, own up to yourself. Had you ever thought about being the Bachelor? So he calls him out in front of a group of people. They ask that question, like, have you ever considered being the Bachelor? They say he feels fraudulent, like he's running a campaign, and that he's trying to be the next Bachelor. That's basically what Hunter is saying, and like that they feel he's manipulative. And if he's like that with them because he's gotten them a few times, then they definitely wonder how he is with Katie, and is he manipulating her as well? So he starts out just like a politician. And he's like, well, thank you guys for your honesty. But basically just saying, like, I really like Katie now. I told you guys. Well, yes, I have thought about, maybe being the Bachelor when I first came on here. Because I did tell you guys I was not 100% here for her in the beginning. But I'm liking her now. Falling for her. He just never knew what could happen. So everybody was like, but you kind of not answering the question. You just kind of like skirting over it. Again, glossing over things. And they think she won't believe any of them at this point if he does turn out to be here for the wrong reasons. And she'll just give up on the whole process. And then, guys, it stops right there. Another cliffhanger. We do not get to the second group date. We do not get to any rose ceremonies or anything. It was just solely focused on Thomas and his deceitfulness. So I don't know what's going on. We did see the previews for next week, so those were kind of cool. We saw Katie sitting down with Tayshia, and Tayshia says, well, there's somebody from my past who, kind of wants to meet you. And then they pan to Blake. I believe his name is Blake, from Tayshia and Claire's season of The Bachelorette, and so it looks like he's back. I guess he has a thing for Katie, and so he's going to come throw his hat in the ring, and we'll see if he stays or if he goes. So, guys, that is it. There was drama this week. It definitely all surrounded around Thomas. I'll say for the group date, number one, it was awkward, but it did help them to all get a little bit closer, get to know each other a little bit better. And I will say this, no one should hold anyone's past against them, especially if they've learned from it and come out on the other side. So I think it was telling to see how the guys presented their thoughts, presented the things that they have done wrong in the past to Katie. Like, even with Connor, and like people always say, like, once a cheater, always a cheater. She was surprised that he said that, but she was happy that he shared it. And I just feel like Connor, I genuinely got that he is a recovered cheater, and he did that from a hurt people place, and not from a this is who I am. And so there is that. Michael A. and Katie had a really great connection. They had a great date, one-on-one. He got the rose. And so I guess we'll just get to see how the rest of this all plays out next week. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share my video. Share this information. We talk about pop culture, entrepreneurship, success, lifestyle, fashion, and travel on this channel. So definitely invite a friend to invite a friend. And anybody that's a part of Bachelor Nation, definitely come and hang out. We're also going to be covering Bachelor in Paradise when that comes up. But right now, we are finishing up Ready to Love on the OWN Network. It is another dating show. So if you guys have not checked that out yet, definitely check that video out. I've done the entire season, and I just filmed episode 11. So if you guys have not, go back and watch that from the start to finish. You guys will enjoy that just as well. They definitely have drama on that show, just like on The Bachelorette. Until next time, see ya.